Yate and Petuwaste, everybody. Make it a good day. I hope you're having a beautiful one. Tiffany Wolf here, back with Warm Embers. And I have the beautiful Cassandra. I've known her on through social media. This is our first time chatting, but she is the most beautiful soul. I love when she put on social media all of these encouraging enlightenment. She's about strength, movement. She's about the Hózhó lifestyle. And I'm just happy to have you here with me. Welcome.
Thank, thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, Yate and Mado. My name is Cassandra Stouder, but I go by Cass. And yeah, it's really, really awesome to be here. I feel the embers.
Yes, we're sitting around the story we're going to
Yeah,
share
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So tell us about your background, because you had two intros there. So what tribes are you?
Yeah, my mother's side is Diné, and her clan is Ashia, Salt clan on my mother's side, and then my father was full-blood Seminole from Central Oklahoma, so I'm half Diné and half Seminole. So I just said Yate, hello, greetings, and Mado is another greetings in Seminole. So. Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful combination. I love that. I love that.
I
Okay,
have
so
not met I have not met another like Danette and Seminole. It's yeah.
no,
I'm
me
I'm yet to
neither.
find someone. So if anyone
If
listening is that mixture, I want to meet them.
Yeah. Okay, listeners, if you're Seminole, then reach out to her.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
let's get into your journey into wellness. Take us through it.
Yeah, I think with anyone's origin is just like my parents. I think it starts there. My mom is a very strong lady, just a very, very strong lady. And she um, she really um, opened up the inner knowing of strength and endurance for me. And then my father, he's no longer here, but he, I really didn't know up until the past couple of years how much of my challenges in life um, were genetic. And I think that's where I kind of dove into the learnings of what the body keeps and history and story. So even though he's not here, he's teaching me now as an older woman. And so they were high school sweethearts, and
Ooh.
yeah, they went to high school, and from
Oh,
there they were hanging out a lot in Oklahoma um, with my father's family, and my mother was living in Tisto, Arizona, so Four Corners area, and so they would commute between Oklahoma and Arizona, and they were um, they were activists, they were students, they were traditional, they were they had this hunger for life and wanting to build a family. And so in their early 20s, they got pregnant with my oldest sister. And she's a key part to my life story and also to what I do in my work. Um, my oldest sister's name was Cynthia. She's no longer here as well, but yeah, they got pregnant with her. They were in Oklahoma. They decided to stay there and create their foundation there. So they moved out and got a studio apartment. And my mom was going to work and going to school, and so was my dad. So the story is really important for one day in their life together. Is my dad had stayed home with my sister, and she was about 6 months old at the time. And she was one of those freakishly like smart babies, like very quick to pick up on things. She's very, very smart. And so she was like that 6-month-old baby that was already pulling up and trying to
Oh
walk.
my
And
gosh. Uh-huh.
so he had to watch her, like he had to really pay attention to her. And she loved Woody Woodpecker, that
Oh,
cartoon, and she would just go crazy with that. She would go crazy with that, the way that it would open up and he'd start to laugh, that so that cartoon had come on and he went into the kitchen area. There was like a half wall. He went into the kitchen area to go make her a bottle, and that cartoon came on. So she was like getting really excited, and she was on a bed and she's jumping around, and he said, "Calm down, baby. I'm bringing your bottle. Like, sit down, sit down." And she just got more and more excited. And he turned around to come into that room, and it was quiet. She had fallen off the bed and hit her head.
oh no.
Yeah, on the frame of the bed, and it just happened to be like, horrible position, angle, timing, all of that, and the way that she hit her head, she would just like was laying lifeless. So he picked her up and literally ran down the neighborhood road, and this woman happened to be checking her mail, and she said, "Come on," and jumped in her car, went to the hospital. My sister was in a coma for about 6 months, 6 or 8 months. And the relatives there, I think in Indigenous country, there's a lot of our relatives that are um, have converted, right, to religion, like Christianity, Baptists, all of that. And so a lot of our relatives there had come like in congregations. They were having like prayers and things like that in the churches for my sister and this young family, right? And my mom, as I said, my parents were traditional, and so my mom was grateful for the prayers and everything coming together for this accident. And but in her spirit, she kind of knew to kind of stay with Creator and
Uh-huh.
stay with her ceremonial teachings that she learned. And she too prayed for my sister. And but she remembers like some church councils that were non-native coming in just to kind of be with her and coach her along. And they said, you know, we're praying and we want her to come through, but we also want you to think about plan B. There's other options. She may wake up from this coma and she might have some disabilities, or she might have issues in her life. And so you're very young, and so is your partner. And so, we just want you to think about, your work and your school and how you're starting out. And so we want to help you if you want to adopt or look at adoption agencies or different things like that. And she told me and my other sister, as we got older, she said, I couldn't believe that somebody was offering that to me. She said, I just knew as a mother, like, this is my child. And either
Yeah.
way, we're going to get through it and figure it out. And during those 6 months that my sister was in a coma, my mom was like going to the library and getting things on kids that go through medical issues like this. And she was just like downloading everything
Yeah.
that she could while she was waiting there. And she said that there's just no way I would leave my child because of challenge. And I think that's another part of being Indigenous, is like we kind of know challenge and disruption at the root. And so maybe she didn't know as a young woman then that her ancestors were like, something inside of her was like,
Mhm.
no, we figured it out, and we're gonna be okay. And so my sister came out of the coma, and she was diagnosed, and she was she came out with disability. And so the disability was called cerebral palsy.
Oh,
And So my sister was blind, she couldn't speak, she couldn't move, and there was no telling how long she would have this disability, and very low chance that she would be able to normalize, her way of living and her way of being. And yeah, she happened to be paralyzed on her left side. They said that she wouldn't be able to come out of that as well. She would always need like special care. So just thinking about that right there, um, the whole thing of her coming out alive and my parents being young,
Uh-huh.
them starting out their life that way and then having a second child and then having me, the last
Uh-huh.
child, the baby of the family, just is like my root story. And I come from parents that didn't know a whole lot, but maybe had a lot of ancestral power coming through them to make a way and figure out a way. And not just for them, but for their family, for their children, and for their dream, right? For their prayers, for their vision of their family.
Yes.
And so I'm just really grateful for what that was like in their lives. And I can only imagine, right? Like, and tell the story of it. But I'm grateful that this is a part of now my lineage, that I do my best to take care of that story. And I'm sharing with all of you too, that there's a message in all of our stories, that where we come from and our root was born from these amazing parents. Um, my brain was already starting to grow and wire itself to know that a sibling or a a family member with disabilities, right? So like my close network, my close hub of family would be something with what society sees as not normal, and already being like a minority, right? Already being something that comes from a root of oppression. So to just come to a point where I'm at now is something of like prayers and miracle. And I'm grateful for that. But really from my parents and from my sister, because without them, I don't think I would have taken this really like authentic and really colorful journey.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just grateful for that. And so growing up, my two siblings and I just remember like, because my sister was always in a wheelchair. And
Uh-huh.
so we always had to help out around the house. We had to do chores, we had to clean up. And then my mom was like, everybody had a job, even when we were little, like little toddlers and like kindergarten, everyone had a job. You had to sweep, you had to like pick up things or like just sit quietly if people were over. Like everyone always had a role or a
Yes.
job. And I
That's so
remember like,
Diné.
yeah, yeah. And and they were busy, right? They were like
Mhm.
working and doing their best as parents. And I just remember like whenever we go out to grandma's, like out on the res in Tisto, we'd be like, we'd never want to go home. Home meaning like the border town,
Uh-huh.
Winslow. We lived in Winslow there
Okay.
for a little bit. And so we just, my siblings and my cousins, we never wanted to be home like in Winslow in the town. We wanted to be with grandma because they spoiled us, and
Uh-huh.
spoil meaning we didn't have shit, like we didn't have money, right? And,
Uh-huh.
but being spoiled, I think for us then was like just like holding our hands and like teaching us, like stopping and showing us something with patience. That
Yeah.
felt like, oh, my parents are so busy working and we always have to do chores and all that stuff. It seemed like everything stopped and paused, and it felt like it just felt really good to be with grandma and grandpa. And so
Yeah, like to
I
be
think that's
seen.
true for a lot of
Mhm.
res kids now. And back then it's like, oh man, I can't wait to go out to the res. And but like on the weekends on the res, we would like, my middle sister and I would like try to put my sister's wheelchair together. And there's
Oh.
certain things like I can probably put together any wheelchair, just like roll up my sleeves, I can do it. Like,
Uh-uh.
but we would put the wheels on and like fold it, unfold it, and take the brakes off. And like, there's usually a seatbelt and like a lower lap seatbelt and then an upper seatbelt just to kind of keep her upright.
Uh-huh.
And so we're little, probably like less than like third grade down to kindergarten, and our cousins. So we would like just kind of like all together pick her up out of the bed, put
Oh.
her in the wheelchair. We put like one strap on and that's it, and take the brakes off, and we take her out on the res roads, right? Like through
Uh-huh.
the mud, and there'd be like
Oh.
mud slipping up into our face.
Oh.
But, just to include.
Yes.
And to us, there was no difference, right? Even as kids, any kind of kid, there's no discrimination, separateness, or difference. The most important thing for us was just being outside, like, just like the imagination of like, we can play with our toys, but also like, we got to figure out if the wheelchair can fit. We got to figure out, like, and just
Uh-huh.
taking that role of like, she's with us, like she's ours. And I think being Indigenous or Native is like, we have that in us already too.
Yes.
So like our cousins and any other relative that didn't know why she was disabled, would just kind of hold that role too, like she's ours.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, right away, to me right now, as an adult and as a parent, I kind of get annoyed with the idea of normal.
Uh-huh.
And it's only because of that, the way that I grew up. And we just figured out a way. We just figured out a way.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for my sister and the way that Creator designed her life this way, because it taught me so much that no matter what, you're always going to be pressured or challenged in some form, in some way. And if you know it's right and true for you, that you can figure out a different way, or that you can bring a little bit more of yourself in a more like productive and helpful way, do it. Because we're limited by what somebody else says.
Yeah.
And we know our own medicine and the power of that, and what it can push and what it can heal.
Uh-huh.
We know our own medicine so pure. And so, it's taken me some time to understand that. And the best way I could understand that was through falling and through completely miserably failing, and testing myself to see, can I keep up with the rest of what success is? Can I keep up with the rest of what healthy is? And time again, I couldn't. And I had to stop at those points, all of those different points, and figure out why.
Yeah.
And also knowing like, but I come from people that figured out a way, and I come from childhood where joy was felt and health was lived.
Yeah.
We just went about it a different way.
Yes.
And then I could take that same model for Indigenous people. Yeah, those atrocities happen, but we've all collectively together over history and time have figured out a way. A way to what? A lot of different things, like, preserving culture, to elevating and pushing up against things that are really uncomfortable and not safe, and things that have brought death, crime, sickness, prejudice, all of these different obstacles, but we've navigated in a way. And one common red thread with a lot of Indigenous across the world has been the origin.
Okay.
The origin of who you are and your story. And from that single point to your family, to your neighborhood, to your community, to your city, to on and on and on and on. And we know with the original stories of Indigenous people, those first beginning stories of the ways that creation started, their creation stories, is that those are all rooted in roots.
Yes.
It's the beginning of something. And so our ancestors were so brilliant in that way that they knew we would come back to that to try to find the solution for ourselves. So they've already laid out that entire map. And so it's really important, like, not only to come through adversity and challenges as an Indigenous person, but to find that honor in the origin. Mm-hmm. And to really know it. And when you really know it and build that relationship with it, you then can easily put it into your prayers for the future, not for yourself, like for your family and for all of those. And that's how I believe, like, our common red thread of origin and stories and all of that for all Indigenous people continues to survive, because it can only be the root, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be like that nurturing of where it's going to go, how it's going to be, what's going to be produced as a fruit, as a food, you can put any kind of like perception, medicine on that. And it continues and continues and continues and continues. But there has to be a lot of points in, moments where we can stop and really acknowledge why we're doing this and putting purpose into that process of living and taking care of our nature, of our environment, of our story, for what's to come. Because like you said, medicine, we didn't know maybe that we were producing that. And we also don't know what generations are coming. We won't be here to see them or to know them or to feel them and to be with them, but something is coming. And so I've just learned that in a lot of different ways. And the main thing has been, coming through addiction. And, there were so many times in my 20s where I was just like so pissed off. I was like, man, I'm proving all of these stigmas about a brown Indigenous woman to be true.
Like this, you're like, myself. I'm becoming a statistic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so frustrated with myself and society. And it just built up all this anger. And, I've learned that fear and anger is just like a lack of love, a lack of like connection. And so, all of that to say, there was always like creator just like knocking me on the head, like, hello, go back to your beginning. Like, but I spent a lot of time just falling and trying to figure that out now. And I still am. I just happen to be a little bit more healthier now. Yeah. And I'm trying to maintain that. And I'm trying to just share that with other people when I have that capacity, when I have that wellness within me to do that. But yeah, as kids growing up on the reservation, I mean, like, we'd have to like birth cows. We'd have to like, bottle feed the sheep, and we'd have to
when they knock it out of your hand.
Yeah, there was this one time this cow was giving birth to a calf, and my grandma was like yelling at us, like, because it was having a hard labor, and she didn't know, she didn't want to lose either one of them. And so like, we just had to figure it out, like put like cleaning gloves on and like literally elbow deep in the cow.
Oh my God.
So all of a sudden it's like a youth, now we're vets and
exactly.
We're learning about the body and the process and that healthy stress. Some might say, no, that sounds traumatic, like that's horrible. But having the guidance of an older parent or caregiver, my grandmother, she was not freaking out or abusing us in that moment. She was very like knowledgeable because she had been through and taking care of all of her animals in a very good way. And she was coaching us through that. And it just happened to be a very healthy delivery, and we were all a part of it. And so
I feel like that builds confidence in you too, because you're like, look what we did, like if I can deliver a calf at a youth age, I can do a lot of other things.
Exactly. And I think, that's not something you can find in a book, right? In a course. But the next time I'm around a calf or a bunch of cattle, I have a different respect, right? I have
Uh-huh.
a certain calmness around them because I have that relationship and experience.
Yeah.
I've been there, I've been through it. I know the quality of life for them, and I want to take care of them. Maybe my grandma knew that at some level, but the way that society kind of positions things for things to be okay or successful or valuable, sometimes it's not always right.
Yes, I agree. Like we talk a lot about the American dream versus what we value in our culture and our way of being. To go back to like when you were growing up with your sister, making sure all everything is taken care of. I think it's just like goes back to how like if we think about like making dough, right? Like all of these things that we experience that are not normal are actually like needing us and creating
Yes,
flexibility and the
I love that.
ability to evolve and when you don't have these different stresses, I guess, right? Like you're not being needed, you're not being like building these skills of resiliency and it makes you see resources out of things that the normal person wouldn't know, like growing up we used to
Yes.
feed the baby sheep through glass Coke bottles, and then just put the nipple on it, and then
Yeah,
just
yeah,
feed them like that was a soap bottle, but now we're reusing it for to feed the babies, So
yeah.
it's like seeing resourcefulness in different perspectives because you were put through that like you said, healthy stress. And then it opens up your mind to where if you had like the normal childhood where everything was provided for you, I feel like you wouldn't be equipped with the same tools.
Yeah, definitely. I love that analogy. And, a lot of my non-native peers and friends over time have always said that you talk in analogies. I really like the analogies. And I'm like, it's like another root of our way of
Yes.
connecting to this world is, yeah, yeah. And I love that the dough and the stretching and yes, yes, I agree. I agree with that. And, the kneading, man, I love that.
But it's so true
You're speaking my language.
but it's so true because like each of us have a distinct story, even though as indigenous people to this land that we know are sometimes we're blessed with the ability to have heard the stories of the land, right? Not everybody does, but still we know we have that, like you said, ancestral connection that like you go to a place and you're like, there's something here, but you don't know what it is. So when you
Yeah.
talk about our generational wisdom and ancestral wisdom coming through, I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And yeah, I think that there deserves a moment right now where lending voice to those that feel completely disconnected from culture, from tradition, from language, from all of it,
Yeah.
A to Z. There deserves a moment right now, I think, for the listeners is to know that you are your culture
Hmm.
and your experience deserves to be acknowledged. That just means your life story. It deserves to be acknowledged, talked about. It deserves to be written down in a journal or taken into creativity with movement or art or because your experience is part of who you are, but part of the entire collective. And you might not even know it, but you're probably beginning a new thread of culture and tradition. You're probably the start of that. And so I just want to lend more voice and acknowledgement to no more separation and segregation or, levels to how much we know or how much we've experienced as just one thing, Indigenous people. We're all human beings and we have our collective experiences to bring together.
Hmm.
Um, and every experience is so important because, we're just like, it is crazy. There's these atoms that we're made of, and one human being is made up of 7 million octillion atoms.
Wow.
Like, I
I
can't even,
know. Amazing.
And octillion is like more than trillion. I just learned that. And it's like, I can't even compute that. But, just to know that, and that these atoms and genes and epigenetics were all in motion like millions of years ago till now. And we have all of that circulating in us. So every little part of your being and your cells and those atoms that are creating even more and more energy are going to be passed into the environment, into this creation now
Mhm.
and to the future. And so, I know that's like kind of way out there to think about,
No,
but
but it's
um,
existing. It's true. It's true though.
yeah, exactly. And so, you know, instead of saying, well, I don't know, I'm scared, I'm fearful, I don't belong, those narratives for Indigenous people that are urban or that are, whatever those separateness things are that people are connecting to are not things that we should be connecting to.
Yeah.
The things that you're living right now and you're nurturing and taking care of right now and the strengths that you have right now, whatever those things are that keep you in a good way, are your culture. And those are things that we want to turn the light switch on to more and more and say, yes, yes. But it takes conversations like this to stop, pause, create space for that, so that we can all eventually, the goal is to be collective, to be an entire human race that has survived in a good way. But
Yeah.
we have to make room for certain areas that um, are portrayed as a part of, but really at the truthful level are not. And so, that has to do with a lot of my advocacy and work and wellness too, is to consider the ones that are left out. And that comes from my sister, right? Is like,
Uh-huh.
oh no, everything's okay. And it's like, no, actually, because I grow up in a home where it's very hardworking. And, we have to put a lot of effort into being normal.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Uh-huh.
But all of those skills and techniques to do that are medicine. And so is the person that thinks, well, it's overwhelming. And it's like, well, let go of that and let's pull in and hang on to what you have now and what you've done already in a good way. And let's just nurture that. Let's pour some more medicine into that and let's acknowledge that and just bring that forward. I think it makes us all collectively stronger, but we have to provide space for that and opportunity and call it out when it's doing good. Like, hey, I see you. Like, you're acknowledged again. And that takes accountability for us too, as individuals, to check ourselves. Like, I started this thing over here. Now they're excited. And like, I need to keep that relationship going so that there's more and more trust and love and all of that's being, so it takes time and work, I think, as a people. But
I think
yeah,
that's a great point that you're bringing up is time, love, building relationships because today's world of social media, of like likes and just kind of like seeing only the highlight reel of people's lives and not really building a real relationship with each other, I think kind of takes away from the human story, right? Like to where, yeah, we do have lows and we do have, I saw somebody crying on social media yesterday. It just makes me like, it's so real and honest. And we don't see that,
yeah, yeah,
and it was a real cry. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, like
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
scheduled cry, but
Ugly, ugly
yeah,
cry.
ugly cry. And
Yeah,
it was just like, this is the humanness, on display.
yes,
And I think
yes,
like especially Instagram is still very perfectionism, like, Western beauty standards and the perfect life, the normal, like we're all trying
yeah,
to be
yeah,
normal. But in
yeah,
reality, like there's no real story in that if everybody looked the same and acted the same. And what fun is that? Like what life experience, like we're here to experience life and experience each other. And if we're
yeah,
trying to be
definitely.
normal and trying to fit in, how does that like make life fun?
Yeah, I think we're missing a lot there. Yeah, yeah. When we accept that as okay. And yeah, the opposite of accepting is stopping, pausing, acknowledging, and that takes effort. It's like, a lot of it has to do with checking yourself, like, mentally, okay, I'm going to do this. Doesn't feel right. I need to say something. I need to step in. There's a lot of preparatory things that happen before that moment is like changed or you have that pivot together with somebody. But yeah, I think that our society doesn't make room or space for that to happen. And it's just like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And then before you know, at the end of the month or the day, it's like, man, I'm exhausted. And trying to keep up with that is like, and I feel sick and I have a headache. And like your body's constantly signaling to you, this doesn't feel right, or this is not fair, or somebody should speak up. Something should happen. I'm not saying that every single person needs to make like these drastic changes, but at least just acknowledging what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
And put it like, yeah.
So so say somebody has that feel, like how would you recommend that they go through acknowledging and working through like that feeling or like becoming present, taking space?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think, just putting like what I was going to say is like putting pen to paper, like just being brutally honest in privacy, right? Like anything goes on paper that, you can tuck away your journal or whatever. And you can just be like, man, this fucking bitch, like, not that verbatim, but like you can just let it fly honestly. And as you're going, you get like a quarter of the way down your page and you start to, your shoulders soften and you're like, and then this came up in my body and I really hate this. And I don't know, I'm scared about this. I'm fearful. And what if I'm judged? And, all these things. And by the time you're halfway down that page, your stomach starts to soften, like the backs of your shoulders have softened even more. And all of a sudden you've unclenched your jaw. So there is a physical release when you're acknowledging something, but then taking it a tiny step further, your body just kind of says, okay, somebody's coming to rescue me, honestly. And from that starting point, it can evolve into other things. Like we don't just say, talk to someone, just to talk to someone. You can take steps up until that point and make sure that the person that you're talking with is probably doing those same things, like journaling or taking care of their health, or somebody who does set boundaries and is respectable in the community is someone that you can trust and feel safe with. Might be a good starting point to say, hey, and it can be a soft start. Like, I just have a question about something, real quick. And it can be a couple seconds and then you move on with your day. That connection right there, when you share breath with somebody, that air is sacred. And when you take from that air, that element, you put it into their body and they put into yours, and then you move on with your day. That stuff is alive. That breath, that element, it's alive. And it starts to move into our brain and we process, and it goes into our memory, and then it goes into our thinking and our action. You can either decide to have that conversation again, or you can decide to sit on it a little bit more and it becomes that memory. But then when you go back and decide to revisit that person and have that experience again, that memory becomes stronger and stronger. And then before you know it, that memory then turns into like a practice, a conditioning, a different neuron in the brain that now is starting to be born. And then you start to change just little by little. And then before you know it, having practiced all these things of writing, talking to people, taking care of your house, putting it into a prayer saying, yeah, like this thing still doesn't feel right. And I don't know how to voice it still. I've been journaling. I've been talking to my friend that I feel safe with. And now I'm praying, then it's going to prompt you to do something else, like meditate on it. Maybe don't do anything at all. Just sit with it and meditate on it. And then that'll prompt you to do something else. And before you know it, like months or years have passed and you've conditioned all these parts of your being so that when you're in that very same situation, you're going through your Instagram, you see that reel come up again, you go, huh, Actually, this is what I think, because you would have built that confidence muscle or that honest muscle to where it feels comfortable to engage with it.
Uh-huh.
And that's all we do as human beings, right? We experience things and we build that wisdom over it. And it's not pretty. Like, it feels awkward and it
Uh-huh.
feels, it's a little bit scary, but overall it's moving towards like this area where we ultimately want to be. And that person on the other end, right? That's posting on the reel. They didn't know any of that was coming.
Yeah.
And when they receive it, it like takes years off of their lives because it's coming from something that's someone that's genuine and authentic. Like they've gone through something and they're really addressing that person with sincerity. And that could change that person's life.
That's
That could
true.
really put them into a quicker pivot
Uh-huh.
where they really do feel seen, where they feel heard, and they feel hope.
Yes.
That there could trigger something else, like journaling for them, or that could create that new bond and that new relationship, which we were just talking about, is like our society's lacking that. It takes
Uh-huh.
a little bit of like time to pause and really break this down, like dig into it.
I love
But
it though, because then,
yeah.
yes, because then it's like a spark and then it goes on to someone else. And just like how you were discussing the taking in somebody's story and storing it in your memory, that's like the saying, you're comprised of the five people you hang out with, right? And then
Mhm.
it's like you're sharing story with this person. And then you go and share that story with another person. And then they take in that story and then they are sharing that. And it's so beautiful. I love and that comprise like this quilt of our like little network of society of storytelling and just being
Yes,
present and just sharing connection. I think that's so beautiful. How you're describing it.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's yeah, and we just know that as human beings, when someone's being genuine, like you can feel that. And we're intelligent beings. We're extremely intelligent and no matter what limitation you have or anything, we're just extremely intelligent because, I know that again from my sisters because we had a very strong relationship, even though she couldn't talk, even though she was blind and she couldn't move. Our relationship was very, very strong and it evolved and changed and turned into all different things. It wasn't just one thing. And she taught me so much throughout my life that no book or professor or anything could teach me
Yeah.
is to feel and really understand some of these things about health and wellness. And yeah, I miss her, but I think just talking about her right now, like she's sitting right next to
Oh,
me.
I
She's like,
bet.
I can
Yes.
feel her, like her arm around me, like, yeah, sis, like,
Of
yeah,
course. Yes.
yeah, drop those words. Like,
Uh-huh. I love that. It's so beautiful.
I've worked for almost all 22 tribes in Arizona in some capacity, and I have 24 years of experience in wellness and fitness and prevention work with Indigenous folks. And so now I'm coming up on 2 years of just being an independent consultant. And
Uh-huh.
I decided to really step into my role as Indigenous wellness
Yes.
supporter in all communities across the nation. And this pulls me into a lot of different spaces, universities, hospitals, clinics, recovery institutions, different ceremonial grounds. I mean,
Uh-huh.
you name it, parades, gatherings, all kinds of different spaces where wellness is needed, and also just folks are wanting like the opportunity to connect with someone who has some medicine maybe to share on that or to level with, and to create programming, grants,
Uh-huh.
other opportunities to support this kind of work. And so I'm just so grateful. Like right now, I just want to call out to my 4-year-old and my 15-year-old Cass. They're like right here on my lap.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, Mama Cass is here, and there's no way I'm not gonna protect you or take care of you. And there's no way you cannot trust me. And I'm here forever, for eternity. And so if others could not do that for me, there's compassion and understanding in that I've had to go through to get that. But I understand who I am now, and I
Yeah.
understand the values and strengths I have now. Why wouldn't I want to pour that back into my little ones inside, like my younger selves? And um, that's then made me a better mother to my daughter Layla and my son Sean. They're both in universities, both working on their master's
Oh my
degrees
God.
in sports psychology and
Uh-huh.
mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
This is wild because I always felt like Forrest Gump, at the end of the movie where he's like,
What?
he goes to Jenny's apartment and he meets his son for the
Oh
first time
yes.
and he's like, oh crap, but wait, is he like me? I've always felt like that
Oh
with my
my
kids.
God. So
Their individual paths have taken them to such high levels with their athletics, and those athletics and their physical bodies literally paying for their education and now their new way of life
yeah.
eventually. And I'm just so very proud of them. And it's just unreal. It's
Yeah.
unreal. And I'm also proud of, my 4-year old and my 15-year-old. Like, that there's no way I'm ever going to deny them or not bring them into these professional spaces or these like opportunity spaces. They're always with me. And
Yeah.
if you don't like those parts about me or it makes you uncomfortable or you feel some kind of way about that, then I'm not for you.
Uh-huh.
That kind of level of healing and connecting is not for you. I'm not for everyone. But I know my story and I know this to the T of it, and I know different parts of it that can help.
Yeah.
I've just in my lifetime here have decided to carry my life forward this way now. And it looks like this. And it hasn't been easy. And I know there's purpose here. And I know there's still more learning to do and growing. And this is a part of it, like being on this podcast, Warm Embers, like
Yes. We're sitting
this is
here
a part of it.
fire. Yes,
This
because
is a
we're
part
sharing
of it.
the story. Thank you for sharing your story because my hope is that we are contemporary voices and we've survived. Our ancestors have survived so much, and then we continue through our stories, share and show that it can be, you can overcome these things. And somebody will look to you and say, look, Cass has gone through. And if she has done it, I know I can too. And let me see how she's done it, and they go and sprout from there, like, and your story is going to be told, and it's just a beautiful thing. That's the point.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And, you know, to be fair and honest, is I get that from people that ask me to come, be of service and to help. But as soon as that connection's made, I'm learning so much from them. The reason why, I'm interested in researching something and learning a little bit more and stretching myself,
Yeah.
sacrificing myself a little bit more. If they didn't have that question, or if they didn't share that part of their story, or they didn't have a challenging moment with me, those are moments too where it's like, man, there's so much learning and opportunity. Like, I want to talk about some real things without harming people. I want to talk about some real questions without upsetting or re-traumatizing people. There's a way to do this in a beautiful way, in a ceremonial way that can find solution and really create that motivation for change. And, I may not see all of that change or health and wellness in my lifetime, but somebody will that's connected to me, a friend, a family member, a next generation, and so on and so forth. That to me is worth it.
Yes, that's such a beautiful message. Thank you, Cass.
And we want to be a well-rounded person, right? Like, that's where I think, yes, a lot of things have happened, but we've also survived up until this point, and that's for no, like, just because reason. It's for a purpose. And now we can apply all of the ways that we have survived and in a better way. A really like, I think about it now and it's like a huge playground, amusement park, shopping mall, like whatever makes your eyes like the heart emojis, like there's so much to learn and so much that's specific about me
Mhm.
or specific about my family member or the thing that I'm really locked into. Wow, how
That
much power is that?
is so powerful. Like just uncovering that, like learning about, because when you were discussing that, it's like, well, if we did not grow up in a healthy childhood to where people weren't asking us questions about us, they weren't saying, oh, what did you do today? And what did you like? And do you like this kind of ice cream, whatever? But now on a path, we learn about ourselves. And I think that's
Mhm.
so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just owning it. Like own it.
Uh-huh.
It's more than we're just here. It's like owning that I'm here and I'm all of these millions of things and I'm
Yes,
doing my best to own all of those parts too,
that's
to
beautiful.
be here. And like if you were to look at me right now and I still have shame about my 4-year-old and 15-year-old and I'm saying like I'm not quite ready to deal with that yet, you would have compassion for me.
Mm.
But if I had these things that I've been working on and said, well, I'm just not willing to go there, it would be like, oh man, kind of a letdown, right? So it's been a progression of like, no shame. I take care of them now and I'm owning that responsibility. And that also sets me up for a better future because it's only going to add more to what I'm taking agency in my life for. And I know for a fact that that opens up to even more blessings and answers to prayers that have come from so many generations back. And, you know, I get to do these things. I
Yeah,
get to honor those things and, you know,
I
our
love that
breath.
word,
Mhm,
agency, that you say. You keep saying
mhm,
agency, and that just resonates. I just love that word for us.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, somebody told me in a recovery space, they said, you know, it's impossible to think about a negative and a positive at the same time. You have to choose. You have to choose what you're going to think about in that split second. And it's like, oh yeah. So if that's true, you know, we have historical trauma, all of these titles and stigmas with our culture and our population. Like, yes, but also let's flip the entire historical script. And now we have present day strength, present day curiosity to build and repair, and, you know, all of these other things. And that can become an entire rebuild. You know, we're just reverse engineering that machine that has caused some really horrible things, but
Yeah.
also we know that to a fact. We know those bolts and those washers and those metals and those
Uh-huh.
coppers to the T because we saw it happening progressively. We can also break it down and rebuild something magnificent.
Yes. That is so true. I absolutely love that. The empowerment after facing yourself and
Mhm.
owning every part of you. Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
You have woven us a
Oh my gosh.
ceremonial basket of healing and
Yeah.
unfolding. It is
Yeah.
beautiful. And my hope is that the listener has been with us the whole time and is inspired to take on whatever modality of healing in their life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
at the end of every episode, I like to ask 3 rapid fire questions. So, Cass, in your personal soundtrack, what would be the first song
The first song.
playlist
Um,
of your life?
Yeah, I have this on repeat in my car. It's Kevin Yazzie.
Oh,
It's the morning song of
okay.
our ceremonial songs. So I grew up in meetings, you know, those ceremonies, traditional Diné ceremonies, and that
Um,
morning song that, you know, right when the sun comes up and that morning song Kevin Yazzie sings, and it's just that power. And I remember like my younger uncles when I was little, they would hoot and war cry in
oh,
ceremony like that. And I
yeah.
just remember that power, like, and they wouldn't hold back.
Uh-huh.
It was just that scream, that cry, like, it's morning,
Uh,
like,
another
I just
day.
remember that
Uh,
energy. So any ceremonial morning song, um, with the war cry, with the Lulu, with, any of that. And the children just like sitting up taller in that moment, like they're proud. It's just, that's gotta be the soundtrack right now for me.
oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you. Okay, what is one traditional native food that you think everybody should try?
Juniper ash.
Oh, okay. Like in blue mush? How do you eat
Yeah,
that? Like, is it
yeah.
like,
Juniper ash, especially for our women and our mothers,
uh,
it's a natural enzyme that breaks down nutrition so that your body absorbs it the best.
wow. See, these traditional foods. Gotta bring back
Yeah.
that knowledge. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, last question. If you, to you, which one do you think is more important, physical strength or spiritual strength?
Um, I'm gonna say both.
I know, right?
But
Uh,
but with regard like just to my story, I guess I thought it was physical and then spiritual. And that was just my journey and it might be different for other people too. But right now I know that, so many parts to our wellness are important and both are, but how I started and lived it was physical, then spiritual.
oh, that's beautiful. Okay, well, that concludes our episode, and I hope that everybody just takes their deep breath, acknowledges their present moment, and really enjoyed this conversation with you. The unfolding, that's all I could think is just like the unfolding of the beautiful journey that even though it had the moments of trauma, but that's still built on who you are today. And I absolutely love
Yeah.
who you are today.
Thank you. Me too. I can't say thank you enough.
I can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Pray to the creator, let your spirit